Welcome to today's Homeowner with Danny Lipford. Expert advice on improving your home from the pages of today's Homeowner magazine and remodeling contractor Danny Lipford.
Hello and welcome to the show. You know, there are a number of small tasks that you can do around your house that can translate into some big dollar savings on your energy bill. Some involve using caulking to prevent any air infiltration that may occur on the perimeter of the house. We'll look at that, as well as share with you some other great ideas on how you can perform a few things around your house on the interior as well as the attic that can really save you money on that monthly bill. So don't go anywhere. We're about to do an energy efficiency tune-up. Now, one of the first places to start your energy efficiency tune-up on your home is to look for any cracks on the exterior that may allow air to enter the home, or air infiltration areas. Actually, air infiltration can represent as much as a 50% heat loss during those winter months. Now, I've heard statistics before that say if you put all of the cracks together in an average 20-year-old house, it can equal a size of a 3-foot by 3-foot window left open all the time. So you can see how important controlling air from the outside entering the home is. And one of the big sources of that are areas around the windows. Now you can see on this window how there's a number of cracks along the edge here that's allowing that air to enter the home. Now, just using a good quality caulking, I would suggest an acrylic latex because it's paintable. That way you can touch up the caulking later. All you do is cut the end of the tube properly. You start working that caulking right in there. And it can get a little messy if you're not a little skilled at the old caulking gun. So always keep a rag nice and handy so that you can wipe it right down. Keep it from being too excessive. Fill in all those cracks, and it's time well spent going around the perimeter of your house to seal up any cracks that you may have. Then let it dry about a day before you touch it up. There's also areas around the house, such as your hose bib, that may have some cracks around the siding or the brick. That's a good place to apply some caulking. Also, dryer vent or exhaust vents are also area that you see problems quite a bit with. Now, another area that you need to look closely at around your house is the condition of your weather stripping on your exterior doors. There are several different types of weather stripping that's available for exterior doors. This is more of a modern type that's a compression type of weather stripping. Actually has a little wood groove in the doorstop that allows us to clip right into it. And if it's installed properly and the door's adjusted well, it should keep out any air infiltration from entering the home around this door opening. There's other types of weather stripping that include a type that nail to the doorstop itself that gives that good airtight fit. Also, there are some foam weather strippings that are available with an adhesive backing on it, but if it's a frequently used door, I wouldn't suggest that because it has a tendency to peel off very easy. When you're inspecting your weather stripping, look at it closely and make sure there's no tears in it, and make sure it seats well down at the bottom. And while you're there, look at your threshold. There's several different types of threshold. This particular one is an adjustable threshold that allows you to use a screwdriver to raise or lower the threshold so that it fits tightly on the bottom of the door. Now check out these things real closely because the door is one of the other areas that air infiltration can occur. The next place we're going to check in our energy efficiency tune-up is the water heater. Now, as soon as I looked at this water heater, I knew this homeowner had a problem, not only with a leak that's costing him money in terms of water, but it's the hot water side, so he's spending a lot of money to heat water that's spilling out on the floor. He'll have to take care of that right away. Also, we're recommending a new water heater because this one is 17 years old. Most electric water heaters only last 8 to 12 years. So with a new, more energy efficient model, he'll save money in that way as well. Now, if you have an existing water heater, a good idea would be to install an insulation blanket that's available at your local home center. This is a thin layer of insulation that's easily wrapped around the water heater. You tape it up good and it'll help you keep your hot water heater working more efficiently. Now stay with us. After this simple solution segment, we'll show you some tips on the inside of the house that'll really help you save some money.
Get ready to review your fix-it list as Danny and today's Homeowner Magazine repair and maintenance editor Joe Truini show you this week's simple solution. Brought to you by Dodge.
Now usually when you're doing some ceramic tiling around your house, you have to go to the rental center and rent a tile cutter. But Joe's got a method on small ceramic tiling jobs that you can save that rental money.
That's right, Danny. When you only need to cut a couple of tiles, all you need is a glass cutter and a wire hanger and of course a pair of safety glasses. First mark the cut line on the tile, then use a square to guide the glass cutter along the line. When you hear that crackling sound, you know the glass cutter is scoring the ceramic surface of the tile. Then you simply place the tile on the wire hanger with the line directly over the hanger and press down. Now the resulting cut is sometimes a little rough, but it's typically hidden by another tile. If it's going to be exposed, you can smooth it out on any concrete surface or even just a brick.
That's a great tip, and actually this same method can be used on any size tile. Well, welcome back to the show. Well, as you can see from that first segment, there's a lot of things you can do on the outside of your house to prevent that air infiltration. Well, if you use the same principle on some of your appliances in your kitchen, it's just as important, such as your refrigerator. To keep that cold air that you're paying for inside the refrigerator, you really need to inspect the gasket around the door of the refrigerator. It needs to be good and clean, and it needs to be very pliable and soft. In order to clean this, a good old-time trick is to use baking soda and water mixture. This will clean it and keep it good and pliable. But if it's in really bad shape, you may consider going ahead and replacing it. It's only going to cost about $60, and it's very easy to remove screws and replace that. Now with your oven, the same principle in keeping your heat in the oven and not exposed to the outside. Inspect your gasket here. Again, it should be nice and pliable, and these can also be replaced. Occasionally you may have to replace the entire door, but it's well worth it in the energy savings you have. You know, it might surprise you that on some of these appliances represent as much as 9 to 10% of your energy usage, so it makes sense to try to save as much energy as you can there. Now another big source of air infiltration in homes are your wall outlets that are located on the outside wall of your house. It can represent as much as 20% of your heat loss. And a good solution to that, if you're not able to really seal it in the new construction stage or remodeling stage, then consider using some of these electric outlet gaskets. They're just very similar to any other gasket material. They have the little areas here for the actual plugs that just snap out of there. And then just take a screwdriver and take all of your outlets off your outside walls, take all the covers off. Then just simply slip it over. It usually fits real nice and snug. Be real careful not to put your fingers on any of these hot wires. Then just reapply the cover. And of course any of your switch plates that are on the outside walls can also benefit from using these. And they're very inexpensive, usually only about 10 or 15 cents a piece. You put it back on, that really seals that up and will save you a lot on your power bill as well. Now all of these ideas and all of these tips will help you a lot, but nothing is more important on the inside of your home than taking a close look at your heating and cooling system. Controlling the thermostat on your heating and cooling system is probably the single best way of really saving the most on your utility bill. Also, when you're away from home a lot, there's really no need in keeping the temperature in your house as comfortable as it is when you're there. An easy way of doing that is adjusting the thermostat about 10 degrees, maybe a little cooler during the wintertime, a little warmer during the summertime as you're leaving. Now you can do this manually, but it's a lot easier with a programmable thermostat, or commonly called a setback thermostat. That allows you to program your heating and cooling according to your lifestyle. That way, when you're away, you're coming back, you can adjust it and time it just right so that you're using the least amount of power or energy in your home as necessary. Also, to keep your heating and cooling running at peak efficiency, you need to take care of regular maintenance on your system. Now this is a setup where you have an air handling unit here and your filter right below it, which is really pretty convenient, and that's important in getting to these systems, is to keep it nice and convenient on your return air. Now this is one of the most common type of air filters, a fiberglass filter. It's very reasonable, and which means there's no reason why it shouldn't be replaced at least once a month for peak efficiency. There's also a number of other type of filters that are available that may be a little more efficient and a little easier to maintain. But in order for your unit to be using only filtered air, it would be a good idea to kind of inspect an area that you have like this, because if you have any holes like we have right here, it's allowing air to get down through this platform, and the unit is bringing in unfiltered air. The same goes for any little cracks that you may have along the platform like we have here. We need to take some caulking and seal all of this up so that every bit of the air that goes into your unit is going through the filter. Because a lot of people don't realize that a properly working heating and cooling system has 4 air exchanges per hour. That means every cubic foot of air you have in your house is passing through this filter 4 times every hour around the clock. So keep your filter good and clean, it'll work more efficiently, and you'll save money on your utility bills. Now stay with us. When we come back after this brief segment, we will show you how you can really save some money by doing a few little tricks up in the attic.
It's time to check out this week's best new product with Danny and today's Homeowner Magazine Editor-in-Chief, Paul Spring. Brought to you by the Home Depot.
Paul, one of the things that amazes me is how companies can take a regular building product like caulking and continue to improve it like Red Devil has.
Right, Danny. That's what the best companies do. They go back to research and development. They take the problems homeowners are having with their products and they make them better. And in the case of this Red Devil caulk, this is polar caulk. The problem is putting caulking on when it drops below 40, 50 degrees. You get down to the freezing level, it's hard to even get the caulking out of the tube, and it won't cure once it's on there. Now the advantage, Danny, in this is that it will go down to 15 degrees and it still cures at that rate, has good adhesion properties. It's what you want in a caulk even when you've let it slip on your chore list and it's November or December by the time you do the chore.
Well, now, my part of the country rarely sees 15 degrees, but we occasionally see 115 degrees. I understand Red Devil's also considered that.
You know, I've noticed every time I visited you, Danny, that is true about that 100-degree mark. And they have developed a caulk for your part of the country, too. This is solar caulk, and solar caulk doesn't have the same problems with slumping or curing in hot, humid climates. These are both acrylic caulks. They clean up with water, but they solve that when it's not ideal temperature time.
Well, now usually when companies introduce a product, it tends to be a little higher than it should be. What about the cost on this caulking?
$3 a tube, 10.1 ounces, Danny.
Great, real reasonable. Now we looked at how outside air entering your home can really affect your overall energy bill. Well, the same goes for conditioned air, particularly in the winter months, being able to enter into the attic space and heating an area that really doesn't need to be heated. Well, the solution for this problem is to seal up as many openings as you possibly can. And one of the biggest openings you'll find is the entryway into your attic. In this case, it's a disappearing attic stairway. You may have a scuttle door in your house, maybe a 2-foot by 2-foot little opening that allows you to access that attic. Well, as I said, that heated and cooled air can also enter the attic and can be quite a problem and cost you money. So the solution to that is to use a foam window and door weather stripping and apply it around the edges, because this edge is an opportunity for air to enter into this. To install this is very easy. You start by cleaning the area where you'll attach the foam weather stripping. Then after you open the pack, you unroll a section of the foam weather stripping and then cut it with a regular pair of scissors. Then peel off the plastic backing on it and attach it, and then this should provide you a good airtight seal. Now another area you need to look closely at in your attic is anywhere your air conditioning and heating ductwork goes into the ceiling. Now if you'll dig your insulation away from these areas, well, here's an indication here. The darker insulation that you see is actually an accumulation of dirt and dust, which indicates that air is being pulled up into the attic. So a simple solution to that is, just like you would on the outside of your house, to seal up that crack using a good quality acrylic latex caulk. So we just pull this away, and using the same type of caulk we used on the outside, is just run a bead of caulking right along that area to keep any of that air from entering the attic. Now, of course, it takes a little while to do something like this because you have to move all of the insulation away, but it does help considerably. Some other areas to consider caulking would be any recessed light housing that you may have. Many of these will not be insulated type cans, and it's a good idea to caulk around those. Also, any plumbing pipes like vent stacks that come up through the top of your wall, as well as any electrical lines such as Romex, where you may have a 3/4 inch hole but only a small wire coming through it. That's another great place to apply some caulking to seal all of that up. Now, of course, while you're in the attic, you need to check out your insulation. That is one of the single factors that affects your heating and cooling bill more than anything else. Now, this is a blown fiberglass insulation, and to get an idea of what your R value is, or the ability of the material to repel any heat loss, you can just measure the depth of it. Here, measuring down, we look like we have a little more than 10 inches of insulation. Now, if you take the factor of 3.5 times 10 shows us that we have an R value of around 35, which is very adequate for this area. This house is located down in Florida, and here in a moderate climate, your recommended R value is R26. So with an R35, we're in great shape here. Now, if you're in more of a colder climate, you need to get up to about an R38 to have the best level of efficiency in your attic. Now, also, in addition to looking at this air conditioning and heating ductwork, you need to look at the larger ductwork sections in your attic as well. Now, if your ductwork runs through your attic, it probably looks a lot like this. You have a main trunk line, and then you have several supply lines that spider off of it in all different directions. Now, this also means that you're going to have a lot of joints here that could be leaking air into your attic space, making your heating and cooling not very efficient. Now, to test that, turn your unit on and just take a simple tissue and go along anywhere that the ductwork may tie into this, and if there's any leak at all, you'll see it in the movement of the tissue. Now, obviously, the homeowners here have had some duct repair done at some point recently because of the presence of the duct mastic. Now, duct mastic is applied very much like you would a thick paint with a good paintbrush, and you apply it over the existing tape that originally held all the ductboard together. This way it remains pliable and really seals that up long term. A couple things to remember now when you're working in the attic. Don't step through the ceiling, and have plenty of light so that you can do all of this work we've talked about very safely. Next is our Around the Yard segment.
Now let's go outside for Around the Yard with Danny and lawn and garden expert Jennifer Brennan.
There's nothing more frustrating than planting your garden, coming out the next day and finding that some animal's been digging in it.
Now, there's a number of commercial repellents that are available to handle this problem, but Jennifer has a little trick that handles it just as well.
It's as easy as using chicken wire or poultry netting that you can find in the hardware store, cutting pieces, laying them around your plants, and mulching with a coarse mulch. The process begins by raking any existing mulch away from your plants, cutting manageable sized pieces, laying them flat around the plants, and then mulching with 2 to 4 inches of a coarse mulch. Animals really don't like to dig in mulch that's this coarse. If they do, they'll reach the wire netting and it will deter them and they'll go someplace else.
Now, some people recommend mothballs to handle this problem. We don't recommend that. It can contaminate your groundwater and cause other problems, so stick to a simple method like this. Now, if you'll use a few of the tips that we shared with you this week, I guarantee you'll start seeing some savings on your utility bill. You know, if you save 5% here and 10% here, it's bound to make a difference. Now, each week here on Today's Homeowner, we want to bring you some good, useful information that makes it a little easier for you around your home. I hope we've been successful in doing that this week. I'm Danny Lipford. Hope to see you soon.